the actual town, I mean, it was bleak that years because of the Troubles. There was nothing going on there, no bands ever played. It needed an injection of money and stuff, and of course that didn't happen. I was quite young as well, so I didn't really know what was going on then. A few years later I got to find out, like, music-wise, it was in the doldrums.
The thing was that to put it in context, I guess, that on the sort of the live circuit, and even then is perhaps a bit of a grandiose description of it, there was kind of two types of bands at the time. One that still predominantly exists, which were generically known as show bands, that in effect simply did live versions of this week's top 40. And every week they would learn a completely new set based on that week's top 40. And the other were kind of, I guess, by modern methodology, have become called tribute bands, where they knew how to play every single note from Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, and every Friday night would replicate every single note, where we were kind of, no, you don't want to do that, mate.
We saw the band in the Casbah, which was fantastic, and I always loved the Casbah. And the barmen in the Casbah, if you pogoed, all the bottles started flying off the walls and stuff. And they had these wet towels, and all the kids instinctively knew when to duck on her. And I kept getting wet towels in the face. And I asked, where's the toilet? And they said, well, you can have that wall there or that wall. It was just it was fantastic because I really loved it.
Once we got a regular thing in the Casbah, to try and keep it interesting for us, we'd try and do a new song every week. And it was easier to try and write a song than doing a cover version, because you have to work out, well, for me, I had never agreed to hear and stuff, working out chords and that sort of thing. So it was easier to try and put a few chords together, which made it easier for me.
I saw the band on a number of occasions. I saw them once in the Casbah when I was probably the oldest person in the audience. I come up from Dublin, and a friend, actually the son of a friend, actually insisted that I come, because I was writing about music, insisted that I come and see them in the Casbah, and I did, sort of. And one of the things about great bands is that you know a great band when you hear it. You don't have to analyse it, sort of, and within 10 bars the first time you heard them live, gosh, this is something special, and it's in the Casbah, in this sort of overground dungeon.
Casbah, for the purposes of history, was actually a porta-cabin that you'll see on any building site anywhere in the world. So we're not talking about some sort of grandiose venue here. That had actually been placed over a hole in the ground where the previous establishment had been bombed to oblivion.
Alright, Casbah, 24th of February 1977, we got £20. We've definitely made a name for ourselves. It was fucking brilliant. For our sake, it had to be brilliant. Sound was fair all round. Fair? I don't think we would have been looked on as a brilliant new group if Billy hadn't demolished the drums at the end of TVI. He just went mad along with me and John, getting all the feedback we could. We're invited back in 2 weeks' time, and if that goes well, we'll be playing there regularly. Like I said, this is the year of the Undertones. Classic stuff.
I've always liked instrumentals anyway. A twangy guitar is still hard to beat, I think.
That's right, you're big
every time I walk down the street.
But that's good.
You want to change up?
I'll make a note of it.
You have to remember, in 1978, it wasn't that easy to make a record. Certainly very few people were doing it in Derry, and we knew that Terry Hooley in Belfast was putting out these records. So we managed to get a tape to Terry Hooley.
I had listened to it for 2 weeks non-stop, every night. And I was, at that time in the 70s, was loads of people used to come round to our house. And every night I played it to them and they all hated it. And then one night a guy called Ricky Flanagan, who made poaching at the time, we were drinking his poaching. And at about 3 o'clock in the morning he said to me, I understand what you're on about. I think this band are good. So I had somebody else and I wanted to do the Undertones. but there was a few other bands at the time that I wanted to do, and I was going to meet one band and to tell them that I was going to do them, because we didn't have much money. And I met Bernie McInerney in the shop, and he was going back to Derry, and he told me that the Undertones were going to break up if I didn't sign them up and stuff. And I said to him, I'll tell you when I get across the road. And when I got across the road, I said to Mac, tell them we're on the label.
What a lovely sound. I mean, far from it being, you know, an angry, aggressive sound, it's actually very sweet and beautiful, and just because of the type of people they were and what they were trying to say and so on. When you hear at the opening of Teenage Kicks, when you hear John and Damien and Mickey on the bass and Billy Doherty sort of on the drums, sort of the way those sounds intermesh, the first thing that strikes me about it is just how beautiful it is. I mean, how sweet the sound is, and then when you factor in, I mean, Fergal's shimmering voice floating through the instruments, you know, it's a gorgeous noise, and I think that's significant, really. You know, this was a band that sounded beautiful, you know, coming from an ugly place. You know, and while many people would, in conventional terms, see sort of that, sort of the sweetness and the beauty of their music as something soft and mainstream, that was far from mainstream in the Bogside in 1977 and 1978.
My memories of the earlier days of the Undertones before we got signed, and even when we did get signed, it was bedlam. There was constant fights every weekend. Like, we'd pack up our gear and come out of the Casbah, and there's always boys waiting to punch your brains out. And even going home, we used to run up William Street because there's always guys there waiting to hit you slap. I don't know why.
Was it dangerous to kind of raise your head metaphorically above the parapet, to do anything really that attracted attention to yourself?
We did come on for a fair bit of stick, even before we were on top of Pops, and then afterwards,
But stick for what, though?
Well, a lot of us since with Fergal, actually, a lot of people hated Fergal because he was an exhibitionist. Because we'd always get abuse in the street, right? But Fergal was the only one who gave him abuse back. He wasn't afraid. We were kind of cowards. We'd just
which I would have been with you. Yeah.
We were going down to get a newspaper and cigarettes, and this kid run across the road to spit on Fergal. And that really freaked me out. Well, first of all, I thought he was going to shoot us or something, and it really freaked me out. And I just I never really got over that, because in Belfast people couldn't be born to walk across the road and spit on you. But it was just like, here was a band that had even got a record contract, and this guy was coming